I'm Danielle Hale, Chief Economist for Realtor.com, and here's what you need to know. As few leaves remain and pumpkins are soon to become pie, views on the economy may be as divergent as views on daylight savings time. Small business confidence slipped in October as the outlook for future business conditions dimmed, and half of respondents reported raising their prices. 1/3 of business owners reported that inflation was their single biggest problem. In hopeful news, the latest consumer price index showed that inflation slowed in October. Overall, yearly prices rose 7.7%, with budget essentials like food, energy, and transportation services climbing at a faster double-digit pace. This data is one of 2 readings that the Fed will have to consider before their next rate decision. It was a step in the right direction, and if this momentum continues, the Fed may hike by only an additional 50 basis points in December. Markets seem to have already taken a victory lap, with stocks soaring and yields dropping, but I think the Fed will regard this data with more cautious optimism. Data collected before the inflation release showed that mortgage rates were back up above 7%. And while election uncertainty didn't help rates, it wasn't the biggest driver of the uptick. Rather, investors had more time to digest last week's Fed meeting and Chair Powell's focus on a potentially higher terminal Fed funds rate. Whether that rate will ultimately be needed will depend on incoming inflation data, like this week's glimmer of hope. Right now, neither buyers nor sellers feel great about today's housing market. An October housing survey showed that the shrinking share of consumers who say it's a good time to sell are still just barely in the majority, but buyer sentiment also declined. The Realtor.com weekly housing trends report suggests that it's not only buyers but sellers too who are in wait-and-see mode. Active listings continued to ratchet higher despite this week's largest year-over-year pullback in new listings since January. The price of the typical for-sale home continues to climb at double-digit pace, yet could finally return to single-digit territory by the end of the year if the recent slowing is sustained. And homes spent more time on market compared to last fall. You'll find the details, along with our housing data for download, at Realtor.com/research, and follow us on Twitter for real-time updates. Finally, to those who serve and the families that support them, thank you and happy Veterans Day.